Lesser is a member and he's here, so I think we should be good.
Oh, we can't see him.
Okay. All right, it's 6 o'clock. Team IT, are we ready to get going?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the JEDO Board meeting of December 8th. This is the last meeting of the year. It's consequently as well my last meeting. So with that, now we will call the meeting to order, and I would ask the clerk to do the roll call.
Mayor De La Isla,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Here.
Councilmember Nager,
I'm Councilwoman Ortiz. I'm Councilwoman Nager's proxy tonight.
Councilmember Lesser,
Here.
Commissioners Rippon,
Here.
Cook,
Here.
and Mays.
Here.
We have seven voting members present. Non-voting members, Councilmember Hiller,
Here.
Councilmember Valdivia Acala, Councilmember Emerson,
Here.
Councilmember Dobler, Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
We have 3 non-voting members present.
Thank you very much. At this point in time, we move on to the presentations. The first one, go to the quarterly report. Molly, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Hello to everyone here in the chambers, and hello to those on the screen. Be careful there driving, Mr. Lesser. Let's see, I can't see, somebody's taken over the control here. All right, looks like our slides are getting ready to be on the screen. We're going to keep it brief tonight. I know some of you were here for a long time last night, and you have the quarterly report for the third quarter in your packet, but we're going to touch on just a couple highlights since it's been a while since we've seen some of you. So I will start off with talking about new business attraction. Some reason we're on the budget. We need to go back to the beginning of the presentation, please. So the very first slide. There we go. There we go. Okay, we're on track now. All right, so let's talk about new business attraction. So I just wanted to share this chart with you. As always, we have a large portion of our projects in the new business recruitment side of things within the manufacturing industry. That's kind of the trend across the nation, so it's not surprising that that's the way it is for us as well. But as you know, we embarked on trying to grow a new sector in Topeka last year, and that's aviation. So we do have a good portion, about a quarter of those projects that we have in the pipeline are within the aviation industry. So I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide, but 25 active projects total, 18 of those have come in 2021. We held a site visit in November for a company that is in the emerging technology industry. They came in by way of the Kansas City Area Development Council. That's one of our main sources for leads for new business attraction. And when they came in and talked with our partners at Kansas City, they said, okay, show us whatever you want to in the region, but we want to make sure we see Topeka. So we're hearing now a lot from our partners in Kansas City, which is great. I'm sure that a lot of the exposure from Choose Topeka and Plug and Play is a reason for that, but also I'd like to think that just our traditional economic development is something that shows well for those companies also. That company started with 17 states, and once they left us, about 48 hours later, we got feedback that we were in the top 2 in the KC region for the sites. So we expect another site visit from them, and just haven't heard when that will happen yet. But we have some unique assets for that company that really set us apart, so I'm hopeful that you'll hear more about that one. To talk a little bit about aviation, so we have really been doing a lot of groundwork and a lot of research and involved a lot of our stakeholders and elected leaders here in the community and partners at MTAA to find out kind of what our low-hanging fruit is and what our barriers for growth in that industry and the locations both at Billard and at Forbes are. So we're gathering knowledge right now, but we do have some broker and developer contacts that would be wanting to look at Topeka, both sites, Forbes and Billard, to potentially build some of that infrastructure by the way of hangars and things like that that the industry really would need. We are scheduling some spring site tours for companies that are international that are on that project list that want to get some boots on the ground and check out Topeka. So I will pause now and move on to Glenda if there are no questions about that section. Okay.
Any questions for Molly? Seeing none? Linda?
Good evening, everyone. So just to share with you what we did last quarter, I'm going to share with you what we did throughout the entire year. It will be brief, but I wanted you to kind of get an idea of where we are now and where we're going. So we've been working on a number of things that hopefully will impact the community. My keyword for the year was collaborate. Take a look at who we could partner with to help us get the job done. Because there is one person feeding a whole community, and we knew that there was others that wanted to help us out. So we began to make connections and look at different organizations, individuals, to assist us in helping us reach these goals. We've worked with organizations like Scent, Washburn, OmniCircle, Food Oasis Group, a number of community organizations, the Links, a lot of others that help us reach our goal. We were deep entrenched in COVID last year, and so what I told somebody yesterday was that had it not been for COVID, we wouldn't have thought about collaborating. And so we did a lot of collaborating, taking a look at what was out there, who was out there, and who was doing something similar but not the same, and how could we enhance that, or how could they enhance us. We worked with the Housing Authority, looking at how we could help build businesses in LMI communities, and it's been really a great opportunity for us to look at that program and look at what we can do nationally with something like that. We worked with JEDO. The group asked us to disperse a grant opportunity for small businesses, and we worked on that as well. We think we did a good job. We shouldn't be patting ourselves on the back, but there were 78 grants issued with $700,000 dispersed. And so we were really, really excited about that, because at the end of the day, we were able to touch those businesses, a lot of them that had not been assisted during the COVID era. The next group that we worked with was Scent. Scent was doing a project across the community over on the east side, and they needed some assistance with taking a look at what we could do to assist them. And we talked through it, and I'd worked with them on a number of other little conversations, and this was one that I thought would impact the community, and I came to you, and you agreed that it would impact the community, and it has. We worked also with Small Business Development Center. We're currently working with Small Business Development Center, with Network Kansas, and with the OmniCircle Group on a collaboration that we're doing, and it has to do with the OmniCircle's new venture. We are working with them as well as with the Kauffman Foundation to make sure that we impact the minority businesses in this community, and so we work really hard with that. And as I stand before you in a few minutes, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of those programs that we've been planning that we'll implement in 2022. We've worked with a number of other organizations. We're really excited about the opportunity that we have for next year. We're going to work on a number of different things, but I just want you to know that all of that and then more is what we've been working on to make sure that we impact our community in a positive way, that we address LMI communities, and that businesses that support those communities create jobs, and they are sustainable, they are addressing poverty, and impacting distressed communities. So that is my report for tonight on the first half. So if you have any questions, I stand for questions.
Any questions for Linda?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda.
Good evening. I'm Laurie Piper, Vice President of Entrepreneurship and Small Business at JEDO Topeka. I've had the pleasure to meet most of you. I don't think that I've had the opportunity to meet all of you, so it's very nice to be here this evening. For third quarter and fourth quarter of this year, the main activities for small business and entrepreneurship have been working on the Small Business Incentives Program, working with the Small Business Council, working with the entrepreneurship work groups, doing promotion for Shop Local, Shop Small to promote our local businesses during the holiday season. And also something new that we're doing is outreach to the veteran community for veteran-owned small businesses. So I'll elaborate a little bit on a few of these. The small business incentives are something that I took over from Glenda when I started at JEDO Topeka. We had come in during the second round of funding, and we have been continuing to process the applications and get that funding distributed through the incentive program. We had, at the point I came in, we had 44 open applications and 20 that we continued to process. Some people decided not to move forward with their projects for this year, but to postpone them to next year. We also have been undergoing a small business incentive update. As you know, good practice for program management. We review the policies and procedures and effectiveness. So that was a big project for this year. We just had our updates approved yesterday, and I'm sure I'm going to be reporting more on those at the next meeting. With the Small Business Council, we've really been working to listen to the needs of the small business community and really help work with them to make it an effective communication tool. Two of the main issues that we're working with right now are everything that's related to workforce and also inflation and supply chain issues. So one of our big priorities is trying to help them develop better strategies for being resilient and adaptive and being able to continue to grow their businesses during times that can be challenging. The entrepreneurship work groups evolved out of Momentum 22. They're still continuing. We had a meeting for the groups to get together and continue moving forward with their projects. We're going to be meeting again in January to decide where we're going moving forward with Momentum 2027. We had Deputy Mayor Padilla present, Mayor De La Isa. I lost her. I thought she was right here. Okay, I just can't see her anymore. The Small Business Saturday proclamation, which is so important to the small business community, and then did social media promotion, had small business resource kits, did promotion around the city of Topeka, and also developed Shop Topeka local swag that we handed out for the holiday season. And then for veteran-owned business outreach, we worked with PTAC, which is Procurement Technical Assistance Center, on delivering training for opportunities for veteran-owned small businesses in government contracting, and got into some of the very technical details of what's involved in getting prepared for that and taking advantage of the opportunities. And that's something that we're going to be continuing to do. Any questions?
Any questions for Laurie? Thank you so much, Dr. Piper.
Thank you.
All right, I'm Lindsay LeBon. I am the program manager for Plug and Play Topeka. Plug and Play is the world's largest innovation platform and accelerator program. We connect our corporate partners, Hills, Cargill, and Evergy, with startups from around the world. all to foster innovation right here in the heartland. We do this by sourcing startups based off of our corporate partners' specific needs, whether that's to solve challenges that they're currently seeing and facing, or a more exploratory approach to be the cutting edge of technology. All this is to help them continue to be industry leaders. Innovation can't happen in a silo, though. It takes local community, universities, and government to make that happen, and we're lucky to have found that here in Topeka. So I just quickly wanted to go over some of our stats. In just over a year, we've sourced over 316 startups. So while those haven't actually been accelerated, I think it's important to know that those 316 companies now know of Topeka, Kansas, and what is happening here in our backyard. Of those 316, we have introduced 95 of them to our corporate partners and accelerated 30 of them. So what does that look like? We track it by engagement, continued conversations, NDAs, pilots, POCs, and partnerships. So we've had 39 engagements. An engagement is a one-on-one meeting between a partner and a startup. And our startups, we've got our champions on both sides. So we continue those conversations. So of those 39, 24 continued conversations. So that could look like our champion at the corporation leading internal discussions with bringing in other leaders, other industries to get them involved. Of those, we now have 11 NDAs signed, so that's where the nerds get to meet and really talk shop and see if their products can really work and benefit our partners. And then we've got 4 pilots and POCs in place. That's where they validate the performance of the solution, making it possible to evaluate the results and minimize the implementation challenges that might happen. And then we were excited to announce that Hills has one partnership. So they partnered with Bond Pet Foods to create a craft meat protein produced through precision fermentation. I had to learn about that. I could do it, but it would take up way too much time. So of these 95 startups that we've introduced to our companies, 85 of them are US-based, everywhere from, we're pretty coastal, New York, Florida, North Carolina, California, but also kind of right here in the pipeline. So you've got North Dakota, Missouri, and Alabama as well. Of the outside the US, we've got everywhere from Singapore to Australia, the UK, Brazil, and Canada. So all in all, over 20 countries have been represented. And this is really nitty gritty, so I'll just breeze through it, but these are the startups by the stage. So we really are in the sweet spot of the seed and growth, as you can see by the chart. That means that they are beyond just the idea, the ideation. So they've got some kind of proof, they've got data, and they're going on, or even sometimes they've got a product. And then the focus areas. So while we are animal health specifically, that can entail a lot of things, especially right now in this industry. We've got pet health, energy and sustainability, food safety and packaging, automation, livestock health, and food and feed. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Lindsay. Any questions for Lindsay? Seeing none. Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy. Just wanted to share with you all what we were doing with PTAC. PTAC, we are very fortunate in this community to have a PTAC, actually. Our PTAC has been very aggressive in bringing the numbers to the table, and Christy's done a wonderful job in making sure that the people in this community that have the opportunity to do business with the federal and state governments, that she's put forth some numbers that, are during COVID are really mind-blowing. And if you look at that first number, that $112 million, that is for the entire state. But for us, what's important is that a lot of that money came to our community as well. So if you look at down the first line on the left, 18 contracts were awarded to Shawnee County businesses. That totaled $9,712. And so Christy's been in taking care of business. So the federal government won't allow you to interact or go out and talk with people. So all her work has been virtual. And look at what she's done producing on a virtual level. So we're really, really fortunate to have us a Christy in this community. On the state and local level, she's produced about $77,000 worth of contracts. And then if you look at the critical care areas, I call them, the disadvantaged businesses, the woman-owned businesses, the hub-zone businesses, and the service-disabled vets. She's done a spectacular job there, making sure that, making sure that these individuals are touched and that she's cared for them as well. So small disadvantaged businesses, she's assisted 109 woman-owned businesses. She's put forth a good effort there with assisting 61. And so when I say assisting, it is more than just calling and say hello. She helps walk them through the entire process of doing business with the federal government. She gives them explanation, a few workshops, but more than that, more important, she helps them get certified. So she'll do referrals as well. If she can't help you on that level, if there's somebody that she knows in the private sector that can help, she'll refer that person as well. And then if you look at the subcontracts that she helped develop as well, Chrissy's done a fabulous job, and we are, again, very fortunate to have someone of her caliber in our community. And when we talk about the importance of PTAC on a, I guess, a COVID year, she's made a great impact. So hats off to Christy. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Christy, part two. Any questions for Glenda?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our quarterly report, but I do want to just recognize that we have some other team members here, just for those that are on Zoom. So we have Ashley Lehman, who you'll hear from later, who's our Business Development Director, and we also have Trina Goss, Director of Existing Business and Talent Initiatives, and we have Rhett with Forge here as well. Plus, we have some shared service folks from the partnership, and Matt's in the audience as well. But I want to take 1 second to just mention something. If you don't read the partnership's management report, you should do that. It's a great Cliff Notes short way of seeing what all goes on within the partnership, and recognizes some of the accolades that we don't get to mention to you all since we meet with you quarterly. But one of those is that Dr. Laurie Piper, who you heard from earlier, was named to the United States Small Business Council for the U.S. Chamber. So I just wanted to let you all know that we have resources throughout our nationwide networks with Laurie on that team. So I'm sure she'll be bringing back some knowledge from that new engagement. That's all for the quarterly report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, Dr. Piper.
And Mayor,
Yes,
may I say something?
absolutely.
Thank-
Councilman Emerson.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, earlier today, I reached out to Molly. There's a manufacturing company in our community that has a great new service they've been doing for about 3 to 5 years now. And because it's gotten so big, they're a part of a larger manufacturing company. I'm not going to say their name, but they were looking to move that facility to another place where they already had a facility that works better for them. And I called Molly this morning, and by this afternoon, she had a nice letter to them just explaining the types of things we could do and incentives we might be able to offer or technical assistance. So in my mind, it says a lot when there's a company looking and GTP responds like immediately. I think that's really important. So I really appreciate that, Molly. Thank you. I don't know what's going to happen. Hopefully it's a good outcome, and then I'll say their name, but we'll celebrate it here. But thank you, Molly.
Wonderful. We now move on to the action items. Item A, if the clerk would read.
Item A is approval of the September 8th, 2021 JEDO Board meeting minutes.
We have received the JEDO meeting minutes as part of our packet. Do we have any questions? And if there's no questions or comments, what is the pleasure of the body?
Madam Chair, I'd move to approve.
Commissioner Cook moves approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Rippon. At this point in time, if there's no comments or questions with regards to the minutes, we proceed by voting.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser,
Yes.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
and Mays.
Yes.
We have 7 voting yes.
7 voting yes, the motion carries. At this point in time, we move on to item B, if the clerk would read.
Item B is approval of Project Helix incentive agreement.
Go Topeka.
Hello. In the special, well, my computer's still moving. Sorry, I'm gonna wait. Okay, so in the special JEDO meeting that we had in September, the incentive funding for 3 existing companies in Shawnee County to expand were approved. The first one was Project Helix, which is in ag innovation. They plan to add 20 new jobs in the next 5 years. The positions have an annual average wage of $45,000 plus benefits. The economic impact over 10 years will be $135 million, which makes the ROI 324%. The total incentive approved for this project was $119,000 for new jobs and training. As a reminder, all the incentives are performance-based and paid as earned. So with the approval of the contract in the packet, we are excited to announce that Project Helix is Heinen Brothers Agri-Service. I believe a couple of the JEDO board members have already been out to their facilities at Forbes, which is great. John Luger is the GID contract specialist. He's currently traveling, so couldn't join us tonight, but he was able to record a video to say a few words about the project and what that means for them moving forward.
On behalf of Heinen Brothers and Heinen Aviation Services, I would like to thank JEDO and Go Topeka in approving our employment and training incentive package. Being relatively newcomers to the Topeka Shawnee County business community, Go Topeka was instrumental in helping us identify local contacts and in helping us find areas of possible incentives. Every member of the Go Topeka team that we have worked with has just been outstanding and so professional. They have always been willing to listen and have been very helpful in pointing us in the right direction. Since Heinen Aviation Services acquired Hetrick Aviation, an aircraft maintenance facility at Billard Airport in October of 2020, we have been working to aggressively expand our maintenance business as well as hire additional aircraft mechanics and office staff. While hiring qualified technicians in this market has certainly been a challenge, we have added 2 new aircraft mechanics, and we look to hire 2 more in the very near future. We also recently hired a director of human resources who will reside and be based in Topeka. In addition to the new hires, we have also invested about $200,000 in facility improvements at Philip Billard. During this same time, we also purchased the FBO at Billard from Kaw Valley Aviation. This acquisition allows us to offer fueling options for both permanent and transient aircraft and manage hangar leases in conjunction with the MTAA. We are in the process of hiring additional personnel to expand this side of the business as well, and we have leased 3 additional offices at the terminal building. We are also modernizing the fuel truck fleet and working with the MTAA on a possible new fuel storage farm. Lastly, if you haven't seen it yet, I would highly recommend you check out our Heinen Aviation recruitment video on YouTube. There is some really nice footage of Topeka and the surrounding community. Thank you again, and if you are ever out at Billard or would like to tour our facilities, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to our second project. This is Project Warrior. The industry.
I think we're gonna go one by one, and we'll approve each project.
Sorry, thanks. I'm just so excited to announce it. This is my first projects I get to announce, so I'm excited.
I know.
Sorry
Send him
about that.
Okay, so actually, I'll pause then, and I'll ask the governing body if they have any questions. So for the governing body, do you have any questions for Ashley at this point in time, knowing that we don't have the entrepreneurs there? Seeing no questions at this point in time, do we have a motion for approval for Project Helix?
I'll move for approval.
Who was the move? I did not hear the voice.
Commissioner Mays.
Mays.
Mays, awesome, thanks. Commissioner Mays moves the motion. We have a second by Councilwoman Ortiz. At this point in time, there's no other comments or questions. We now proceed by voting.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Lesser,
Very nice work, yes.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
and Mays.
Yes.
We have 7 voting yes.
7 voting yes, the motion carries. Congratulations to Project Helix, and thank you for choosing the city of Topeka. I will say before we go on to the next item that we typically pause after each of these presentations to do a picture. What we'll do this time is that for those who are in the chambers, after we finish with item B, which is approval of Project Warrior, we will pause so that the team that's there on site will do a little picture, and then after that, we will re-engage with the meeting. So with that, we move on to item C, if the clerk agrees.
Item C is approval of Project Platinum Incentive Agreement.
Here you go, Ashley.
Okay, Project Platinum. This industry is also in manufacturing. This was actually an amendment to a previously approved project. The company just needed additional capital investment to their existing project in the amount of $15 million. Additionally, we did add to the original contract regarding their base employment, and that has also been updated from 286 to the 307 that was in the initial contract. The economic impact over 10 years for this will be $12.5 million. The ROI is 172%. The total incentive funding approval for this project was $60,000. That'll go towards their capital investment. And so with the approval of this contract in the packet, we are happy to announce that Project Platinum is Haas Metal Engineering, or HME. So do we have to approve before they come and talk and introduce themselves?
Actually, no, they've introduced themselves
Okay.
now, so that they're open for questions from the governing body, and then after that, we move to the approval.
Okay,
So you
great.
can bring them up.
Okay, so with us tonight, we do have a few members of their team. We have Angela Ayala, Controller, Kevin Rake, Chief Financial Officer, and saying a few words tonight is the President and Owner, John Haas.
Hello, John Haas. Really appreciate everything you guys are doing for Topeka and for what you guys have done for us. It's really phenomenal. I think the incentives that you guys offer really help us to be able to reinvest in employees, to go out and find new employees, the training, to be able to work with Washburn Tech and all the technical schools, high schools around to really make a difference in being able to get good quality employees. It's been really phenomenal. Just kind of a little bit of a history of HME, Haas Metal Engineering. This is our 25th year. This year we went over 500 employees total for HME, Topeka Foundry, Peak to Peak Engineered Railings, Cycle Zone. So we have quite a few things going right now. We do construction all over the country. Basically the structural steel that goes in every major building. It's a lot of fun. We hire a lot of engineers. I see Matt P's here tonight. Zach just passed his PE. So,
All right.
so we're really trying hard to grow Topeka, grow the job base, and really excited with everything coming our way. So appreciate everything you guys do.
Any questions from the governing body for the HME team?
No, I just know that the work that HME has put into Topeka and the growth that they've seen over 25 years really is a standard for their company. And to look at where you were at, where you're at now, is really amazing. So good job.
Thank you.
I would ask if you could, because your company is still pretty new in terms of the name recognition in Topeka and what you've put together, could you briefly describe where your installations are?
Okay, sure. So out in North Topeka, HME is located 2828 Northwest Button Road. We have facilities on both sides of the road, taking up a couple blocks there, but it's not really blocks out in that area. total square footage,
I think we're like 180,000 square feet on the road.
we're sitting on, I don't know, about 60 acres that we have around there. Our latest expansion there was an automated drill saw cope line to allow us to increase the size of beams that we produce. So our existing lines were capable of 500 pounds per foot on beams. The new line will allow us to go to 850 pounds per foot and 80 feet long. The old ones were 60 feet long. We're using this in combination with, we purchased the Adams Business Forms buildings about a year and a half ago. And we've gone through and we've put new roofs on, we've revamped, we've pretty much filled up most of the space that was vacant there for, 10 years, 12 years. We added a robotic beam welding line in the west building. That beam line really helps us to meet schedule, very fast welding. And then we have welders working behind that robotic, basically, line that tacks parts on, and then the welders weld behind it. And then in the east building, we've expanded Topeka Foundry with a pallet-driven horizontal milling system that will have 24 pallets that feed 3 machines. With that, that adds a lot of people. We're running, at HME, we're running 3 shifts, plus we have a weekend crew. So basically, we're running 24/7 to the best of our ability. At Topeka Foundry, we're running 2 shifts. Within Topeka Foundry Machine Shop, we've added a 2.5 meter by 4 meter mill that's bringing in a lot of big work for us. And then we just received today a big vertical turn lathe that we do a lot of parts for different industries around all over the areas. So our manufacturing focus has always been in steel, the structural steel fabrication for construction, and with Topeka Foundry we have the machine shop, the door and hardware, and then Peak to Peak Engineered Railings is an aluminum hand railing system that goes into wastewater, water treatment plants. That's on the west side of Butt Road.
Thank you for
What
that.
am I missing?
We actually have Councilman Les here now.
Okay.
They're filling in here.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I think you pretty much hit it between North Topeka, just kind of on the west side of Goodyear, and then downtown at the 2nd and 3rd Jackson location. Out of the 500 employees, there's about 450 of them that are right here in Topeka and the greater Shawnee County area. And so it's really through all of our partnerships. We've worked with Shawnee County for years, Go Topeka, the Greater Topeka Partnership, to be able to kind of help fund some of these kind of investments and things. So it's been a really important part of our decision making, and Go Topeka has really helped facilitate that. And so we just hope to keep growing and continuing what we're doing.
Thank you so much for that. I just think that I love what you're doing and how you've grown. But in many ways, I think particularly in the riverfront area where you're in buildings that have names, Topeka Iron Works or Adams that other people had in the past, that you're kind of the best kept secret in town. And I just wanted to draw you out a little bit for people to have an idea of how much you're doing and how many people you have. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Councilman Lesser.
No, all I had, Johnny, I just want to thank you for your commitment to Topeka. You and I go back, 40 years? That sound about right?
I was thinking about 10.
He's not owning the other ones.
Good.
No, that's probably about right.
And this is a true success story. I mean, he started with, this wasn't an acquisition, this wasn't anything like that. This was him starting this out on his own and building it to what it is and employing so many Topekans and You know, like I said, I've known him for almost 40 years, and just thank you for everything you've done, keeping it here in Topeka, continuing to grow in Topeka, and you know, you guys are the advisors excel of the construction and steel fabrication. I mean, that's what you are. People just don't know as much about it. So thank you for doing all that. And I will also point out for both our benefits that you and I both are Viking graduates.
Thank you.
All right.
You made it hard
Well,
on us.
At this point in time, do we have additional questions, or do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion by Councilman Lesser. Do we have a second? Second by Councilwoman Ortiz. At this point in time, if there's no additional comments, we proceed with the vote.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Council Members Ortiz,
Yes.
Lesser,
Yes.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
and Mays.
Yes.
We have 7 voting yes.
7 voting yes, the motion carries. Congratulations, HMA. Thank you so much for your commitment to our city and for all you do.
Thank you.
We now move on to item D. Is the clerk agree?
Item D is approval of Project Warrior Incentive Agreement.
And to the folks from HME, remember not to leave. We're going to do a picture after the approval of this item. Ashley.
Thank you. So Project Warriors Industries and Manufacturing, they plan to purchase equipment and increase their employment. The capital investment is $3.8 million with 35 new positions, with the annual average wage of $43,500 plus benefits. The economic impact over 10 years will be $264 million, making the ROI 249%. The total incentive funding approved for this project is $214,000 going towards capital investment, new jobs, and training. Again, as a reminder, these incentives are performance-based and we will be paid as earned. So with the approval of the contract in the package, we are excited to announce that Project Warrior is Ernest Spencer Metals. And with us tonight to say a few words about the project and what it means moving forward is Neil Spencer, the President and CEO.
Well, thank you for having me here this evening, and really appreciate the opportunity. I thought I'd start just real quick with a little bit of history about Ernest Spencer. Most people don't know that we've been in business for 100 years next year. And we started in Topeka in 1922 by my great-grandfather. So I am the 4th generation owner-operator of Ernest Spencer. So next year we get to celebrate that. So, you know, we've been in Meriden. We moved there in 1993. We're also in Ottawa, Franklin County, and now in Topeka as well. In '93, I'll just make this note, and my father was looking to grow. He was looking at the city for opportunities, you know, that the city might do to help him create incentives for that growth. But at the time, there wasn't anything, which is why he ended up in Meriden. So at the time, he employed 25 people, and now we employ 250 people. So we're really excited to, you know, replant our roots back in Topeka. We have been leasing space here since 2016 by the previous Topeka Metal Specialties that we acquired in 2016. But lately, we've seen the opportunity to grow additionally, and we see Topeka as a tremendous base to do that with, to reestablish those roots. We had nearly 500,000 square feet under roof, again with 250 employees, running 2 shifts. A little bit like Johnny, we do a lot of welding and machining, those types of things, but we're the sheet metal guys, he's the structural guy, so we complement each other. So we're really excited about the opportunities the incentives brings to us. It's a sign of the city's commitment to JEDO, to the working people and the companies that exist in Topeka, not just the ones that are coming to town potentially. So we're really appreciative of that. All the folks that work for Ernest Spencer and my family, I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer. Does the governing body have any questions for Mr. Spencer? Or for Ashley on the deal?
Again, I'd just like to thank you for your investment back into the community and for everything that you do in employing all of these people that are working in Shawnee County and, you know, living in Shawnee County. So it's another great win for the community.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks.
Additional remarks? Seeing none, I will call for a motion.
Motion approved.
Councilman Lesser makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mayor-elect Padilla is the second. Do we have additional comments or questions? Seeing none, we proceed by voting.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Council Members Ortiz,
Yes.
Lesser,
Yes.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
and Mays.
Yes.
We have 7 voting yes.
7 voting yes, the motion carries unanimously. At this point in time, we will have a short 5-minute recess to allow the team that is on the chambers to do a picture. And then as soon as they are back in the chambers, we will reconvene the meeting.
It depends.
All right, we are back in our meeting. Thank you so much for those of you who took the picture. And at this point in time, we are going to move into item E, if the clerk agrees.
Item E is approval of 2021 through 2022 cash carry forward agreement in the amount of $13,750,000.
Molly, take it away.
This is Natalie. Good evening.
Sorry, thank you, Natalie.
No problem. I know that we're all excited. We're finally to the part of the meeting that we can't wait for. The cash carry forward agreement for 2021 through 2022. The agreement's in your packet, so you can see the $13.75 million we're requesting to carry forward into 2022. The last few years, we've provided this breakdown so that you can see how those funds are encumbered. So we did the same again this year. So we can see the first line, which we'll cover in more detail as we get into the budget section, is the use of funds projected for the 2022 budget of $5.65 million. And we'll go into what that includes, and I can answer any questions you may have. The funds restricted for MWBD carryover, the funds that we set aside the 10% each year, and it's the funds that have been spent below that amount for years prior, so we continue to encumber those funds for those special purposes. Then we have our future commitments. These are incentives that we have approved, but will not be earned until after the 2022 budget year. So we encumber those aside, as well as the remaining funds from Choose Topeka, the Choose Topeka incentives that we had approved in years prior that we have not spent yet as well. And then the very bottom line is the reserve for special initiatives, which is the Innovation Campus. So earlier in the 2021 year, we approved the Innovation Campus to have up to $5.7 million encumbered for that program. So we have a large portion of that in the 2022 budget. That is why that number is lower, leaving a carry forward amount for future incentives of $2.16 million.
Any questions for Natalie? Seeing no questions at this point in time, what is the pleasure of the governing body?
I'll move for approval. Commissioner Mays.
Thank you, Commissioner Mays. Moves for approval. Do we have a second?
Second, Commissioner Cook.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook. At this point in time, if there's no additional comments or questions, we will proceed by voting.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Council Members Ortiz,
Yes.
Lesser,
Yes.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
and Mays.
Yes.
We have 7 voting yes.
7 having voted yes, the motion carries. At this point in time, we move on to item F of the agenda.
Okay, this time you need to announce. I'm doing what Ashley did and jumping ahead. Never mind, sorry.
It's okay. Item F is approval of Go Topeka 2022 budget.
Molly, take it away.
I was going to say, this time it is me. You're right, Mayor. We're trying to keep you on your toes. I'll open it up, and then each team member will kind of walk through the department budgets after Natalie orients us to the budget worksheet and all the numbers. But first, I wanted to just say thank you to those of you who did take us up on the opportunity to meet on this budget one-on-one. We spent at least an hour with those who took us up on that opportunity to go through each of these budget areas in detail and answer questions, and then we took that feedback and made some tweaks, and that's how we got to the budget that's before you and in your packet today. So I do want you to know that we, based on the carry forward numbers, you can see that we have about 2.1 million set aside for future incentives, and we have decided as a community to double down on innovation and entrepreneurship. So that investment in the Innovation Center means that we really need to be strategic with every single dollar that we're spending, even more than we have been in the past. So you're going to see a reduction in our budget for 2022 versus 21, and Natalie will walk you through that, but I'll let her come up and orient you, and then, like I said, we will walk through each department and stand for questions.
Okay, first I'll echo what Molly said. Thank you for sitting down and talking to us about the budget. I'm sure there's a million other things that sounded more riveting than spending an hour listening to me ramble about expenses and revenue, but your feedback is very valuable to us, so we value that time. Okay, so in a second I'm going to turn it over to the team, and they're going to walk through the programs and initiatives that make up the 2022 budget numbers, but first I want to walk you through and kind of set the table for what we're going to see. You have the full packet of the budget document. Most of that is made up of that narrative of the programs and initiatives, but there's also a page in there, which is my favorite page, shocking, I know, that looks like this. And this is our statement of activities for 2022. So across the top, those first 5 columns are what we call our programming, our ongoing programming. So those are the columns we're going to touch in detail with the team in just a second. The next 2 columns highlighted in gray there are the summary columns. That first column is a summary column for the prior 5 columns for the 2022 budget. That second grade column is the same summary column but from last year's budget. So this is a great place to look at those year-over-year comparison numbers. So let's do that real quick. So down at the bottom half of the bottom part of those 2 gray columns, the expenses before incentives for 2022 budget is $2.8 million versus $2.9 million for 2021 budget. So it's a reduction. And why do we focus in on that expenses before incentives number? The primary reason is because down in the business incentives line, there's 2 numbers there, and the first column is our large business incentives, $2.7 million. Those are the large business incentives that come before you as a contract that are approved on an individual basis. So as we produce our budget for the following year, we're not necessarily seeking approval for those funds. Those have already been pre-approved. We're merely reporting what we are projecting to become earned in the next year. So we strip those out. Secondly, we strip those out because the large business incentives are large, and they can change from year over year by millions of dollars. So trying to compare a year over year number with those numbers in can be misleading. So we strip those out. That second number there in the second column that's circled at the bottom in the business incentives line is the small business incentives. Those are handled differently. Those are not approved on an individual basis, and those are approved through the annual budgeting process that we're going through today. So we do want to add those back in when we look at our numbers to consider. So let's do that real quick. So I've done the math for you here. 2022, if we add the small business incentives into the expenses before incentives, we get about $3.1 million for 2022 versus $3.3 million for 2021. That's about a 7.7% reduction year over year. So that's important because that's intentional. As Molly mentioned, when we brought the Innovation Campus before you earlier this year, we knew that we had a large expense coming forward and we were doubling down on that initiative. But in order to maintain those reserves to continue to attract new businesses and expanding businesses in the community, we knew we were going to have to sharpen our pencils for this budget cycle to find ways that we could reduce operating costs so that we could continue to add back to those reserves. This number circled on the last column towards the top is the $10.7 million. That's the number that should resonate very closely to the cash carry forward number that we just looked at. That's higher than the $5 million we get each year. So the difference between the $5 million of funding we get each year and that $10.7 million is the 5.7 you were seeing of cash use from the carry forward number we just approved. The primary driver of that increase is there. The number at the bottom is the 4.7 million represented in the special initiatives column for the small business incentives. That is your innovation campus incentives that we're projecting out for next year. So this is not a one and done. This is something we will continue. The challenge is we will continue going forward to have a budget year over year with lower operating costs in a time when the cost of doing business is increasing while we're still maintaining the same level, if not more level of support to the community was a challenge. We'll continue to meet that challenge, but it did mean a different view on how we put together the budget this year. I will step back and let the team walk you through the details of what's in those first 5 columns.
Okay, I will start us off by talking about new business attraction, but with the budget numbers, you're going to be looking at that first column combined when we're talking about new business and existing business, but I'll separate the strategies and the components in the side portions right now. So new business attraction, we talked last year about adding a redevelopment project manager within our budget. We have added that person partway through 2021, but have not found the person to fill that role yet. So we still have pushed that into 2022. The reason why we have half of that person in new business attraction is because the other half is in the MWBD column of the budget, because we do firmly believe that the activities that that person is supporting and the initiatives meet the interlocal requirements for the 10% for revitalization of derelict properties and things like that. Another piece of the new business attraction efforts for 2022, we're bringing back familiarization tours. So some of you have taken part in that in the past, but that's really where we bring in around 10 to 15 site selectors and corporate real estate brokers from across the nation to spend a couple of days in Topeka to get to know our people, to meet with our existing businesses and learn why they think it's a good place to do business and do something fun while they're here. Those people all work on billable hours, so and all communities are competing for them to get that face-to-face time in their community. So we are going to center our event around the Stampede and look for invitations to meet with those people while they are in town. We also have the continuation of aviation support, so we are continuing to have support from the outside consultant that we share the cost of with the Department of Commerce right now. So our portion of that is $60,000. We've seen a great ROI from that so far, and I fully expect to continue that into the future. We are going to set aside some dollars for site due diligence into the future, because the land that Topeka owns that we have a lot of information on is diminishing. So we need to learn about some of that other potential shovel-ready land that are large sites that Topeka doesn't own but has private ownership. So we need to get some phase 1 studies and just build up the basic due diligence that is asked of us when site selectors and companies are looking at those sites. We'll, of course, have sales travel. Ashley just came in hot from one of those meetings in Florida, actually, meeting one-on-one with site selectors. So we will have some of those strategic meetings going on into 2022. But as we've talked with most of you, we are being a little more strategic and picky about the types of events that we're going to. So as we've brought in the Walmart Distribution Center and are looking to bring in companies with higher wages, higher skills, higher growth potential, we're taking a second look at some of the conferences that we used to go to in the past that were based around logistics and manufacturing and things, because we know we're going to continue to see leads in those areas. So we are being more proactive in financial services, ag, tech, animal health, and things like that. KCADC, I mentioned earlier, is a good source of our leads, and so is Team Kansas, which is the marketing arm of the Department of Commerce, so we will continue our relationships with them. We have scaled back a little bit on our investment level with those folks. Marketing support and ad placements, of course, this is part of being selling any product, even when your product is a community. We have to keep our branding out there in front of that C-suite decision-making cohort so that they are thinking of Topeka and understanding the assets that we have here for business attraction. And then, of course, at the bottom of the column, you see the incentive payouts that Natalie mentioned before. So sticking in that same column, we also have existing business in there. Existing business does not have as much in the way of dollars that we expend. It's more of a sweat equity. So when we want to meet with an existing business, we just drive down the road. We don't have to fly somewhere to meet with them. So the cost of maintaining the relationships with our existing businesses is a lot smaller. But we do still have an independent contract review and incentive review for those performance metrics that all businesses need to meet to receive their incentive payouts. So that lies in this column as well. And then we'll be back trying to meet with 2 or 3 of our headquarters companies that don't have headquarters in Topeka but have a large presence here. We try to go to their headquarters every so often to just really make sure that those headquarters folks understand the relationships that we offer and the incentives and the resources that we offer here locally, because sometimes the expansion projects are happening at the headquarters level and the local folks don't have a say in the matter or don't really have a voice to really explain the resources that we have in our community locally. So we want to make sure that those relationships exist on both the local and the headquarters level. So that's it for the major components of that column, and I can stand for questions, or we can hold to the end, whatever you'd like.
Molly, I think that I'll take a break so that if people have questions with regards to this area, they can just ask really quick.
Okay.
Seeing none, thank you, Molly, for your presentation. Bring on the next.
Okay, for the small business and entrepreneurship budget, the first item is plug and play support. This is something that's very important to us. Even though we don't own plug and play, it's something that's an important part of creating Topeka as a hub of innovation, and so the ability to connect with businesses that are applying to the program, the business attraction, incentivizing businesses to come and stay in Topeka when they're participating in it and stay afterward, and make connections to our local companies that are already here in Topeka. That's something that's very important to us. In connection with building Topeka's brand as a hub of innovation, one of the new incentives or new types of incentives that we have going into the next year is incentives that are connected to innovation and commercialization. So again, I'll be talking about those in more depth at our next meeting, but that's something that is important for the creation of the Innovation District and for supporting the Innovation Center that we're creating. Another item in our budget is the Wheelhouse Incubator, which is a program that we've already offered several times. We're planning on offering it twice this year. It's a 3-month-long cohort program for entrepreneurs and startup businesses that are growth-oriented. Our Small Business Awards is a continuing program. We are making some adjustments to it to bring it more in line with SBA standards for awards so that we can be developing businesses that are ready to get awards at the state level and then the national level. So we're really trying to help advance businesses in that way. The Washburn Pitch Competition is something that we're a proud supporter of and have been since the beginning. That's a student competition where they learn how to pitch their ideas, and we try to connect with them to help them start and grow companies here in Topeka. The Washburn Small Business Development Center provides no-cost, confidential, one-on-one advising to small businesses, education, and connection to resources. They're primarily set up to help businesses grow, but they also help to start businesses and help them transition to new ownership. And then, as we've already heard a lot about, the PTAC grant falls under the small business and entrepreneurship budget, and that's something that they just do fantastic. Christy does fantastic things through PTAC. Any questions?
Questions for Dr. Piper? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, good evening again. Back to MW there. Thank you. I am the second part of the 50% for the redevelopment specialist and the support that that person will bring. Did we touch something? There you go. There you go. And so as we move on, I'm excited about what that person will bring to the table as far as the communities that he or she can help us sort of make a little bit stronger in a number of ways. I'm also going to talk about a couple of things about what we're doing with each of my areas: women, minorities, businesses, and to talk a little bit about how we build them and how we strengthen them. So Kauffman, you all heard me talk about Kauffman once earlier tonight, but Kauffman, we're really pleased to be able to kind of step into a relationship with Kauffman. We had a relationship, but it symbolized very little at that time. It had to do with them allowing us to be a fast track facilitator. But that wasn't enough. We moved forward with creating that long-term relationship with them by receiving a grant from them, along with the Omni group, to support minority entrepreneurs. And so we'll be working really close with that. So what I wanted to do was start painting a picture for you of what we are going to do in the future as it relates to minority businesses, because we had, in the past, had everything kind of clustered into one, and there was no separation, and you really didn't know how we were working with minority businesses. So tonight I will tell you that Kauffman did some research, and they said that the pandemic was very good to the startup of Black-owned businesses. Now, that was hard for me to believe, so I had to read a little deeper. So what they said was 380 out of every 100,000 Black adults became an entrepreneur during the time of the pandemic, which was substantial to me. But really, you got to know that we were already behind, and so we're just barely catching up. So this is good news, but we got stuff to do. We got business to work on. And then they said that they had not seen this increase in the last 25 years. So we are kind of on the ball. There was a 21% increase in the start of minority businesses. And then as far as forecasting for the Latino community, during the pandemic or before the pandemic, there was 400,000 Latino-owned businesses, and at least one generated an employee, and that looked like a $500 billion tap to the revenue of Latino businesses. They'll make up in the future 78% of the net new workers between 2020 and 2030. The pandemic is ushering in a whole new type, the next generation of businesses. And so you always hear people talk about whenever there's a calamity, businesses are born. This has happened to the minority business community. So we look forward to working with the businesses and collaborating with them and walking alongside them as practitioners to make sure that the women and minority businesses are prepared to enter into that next era. So what we're doing is this is not what we're beginning with, but this is one of the things that we're doing. There is the National Department of Commerce has what they call Minority Business Development Week. And so we're doing a Med Week here. This will be our first time in Topeka, celebrating a week-long celebration of minority enterprise business development. We're going to uncover those businesses that need our help and that we can walk alongside them and help them grow. And so MedWeek will allow us to do that through some training, a pitch contest, through some other pieces of the puzzle that we need to fill in for minority businesses. We also, what we found is that we do have a loan program, just let me say that, but that loan program starts at $10,000 to $15,000 a year. We're looking at a microloan program because a lot of these businesses can't afford to take out a $15,000 loan. And so this microloan program will help them go from the infancy stage up to the First Opportunity Loan Fund. And so we're working on building that program and tightening it up a little bit, and we'll be able to support those businesses that are at the infancy stage. Supply diversity is very near and dear to our heart. We're looking at growing that solid business base for entrepreneurs in the sort of the mid-level stage, those that can afford to do business, meaning they are in position to do business with state, federal, and local government, that they can go up to a corporation and provide the products and services that they need. And so we're looking at supply diversity on a large scale. That means us training them, that means us introducing them through matchmakers, that means us holding their hands and making sure that they're solid enough to do business on that level. We also are working on the DEI strategy, that diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that is something that we're really proud of, that we can now use this as a tool for supplier diversity as well. So it'll be walking hand in hand with supplier diversity. Diversity, equity, and inclusion looks like how do we build an inclusive community? What are we doing on that level as an organization, and what is our role? And so we're working on a little bit of that. The Athena Program is a new program for women. So you might remember that we did Women of Inclusion, an award ceremony, and we've done that for the past 6.5, 7 years. But we're looking at something there a little more stronger as well. So the Athena Women's Program is a national program as well, and they've already proven themselves. They work with small businesses, they work with women in corporate, they work with women that want to start their business. And so Athena has like 3 levels that we will do: an introductory level, a leadership level, and then we'll do a business mentoring program level as well. And so we're looking forward to bringing that in March to our community. They will come in and do sort of what they call a coffee chat to kind of get people familiar with the Athena program and talk about their relationship across the country. And then we will do an annual DEI summit along with our corporate community. Last year we had corporate sponsors and corporate community work with us on the DEI summit, and that actually did open a lot of doors for understanding, for education interaction, and for building the platform that we need for supplier diversity. Community sponsorships is another piece. We'll look at how we can work within the community and support the community, and we will continue our relationship with the Housing Authority. I talked with Trey last week, and he is excited about the opportunity to expand the THA empowerment program. So that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Glenda. Any questions for Glenda? Seeing none?
Mayor?
Oh, yes, Councilwoman Miller.
Thank you. I heard about the Kauffman Grant just earlier today. It's not in this budget because you weren't expecting it, right?
So I wasn't expecting it. It's not in my budget because the Kauffman doesn't give money to chambers and organizations like us. It is actually in OmniCircle's budget. So they will be the keepers of the dollars.
That's great. And how big a grant is it?
So we were given $360,000. $60,000 was given to Omni to help them get the organization operations in place, and the $300,000 is for entrepreneurship and development. And so we are so pleased. That was the first time that Kauffman had ever put any money into our community. They gave us a facilitation of fast track, but they actually...
Tell the story.
No, I ain't telling that story. Because I gotta stay on their good side. All right. But we had to basically talk them into that we were a community worthy of the funding for Kauffman, and that we would be good stewards of those funds. And so we are very excited to be able to tell you that we have $360,000 of the Kauffman's money in our coffers.
And I got to, in effect, represent this group as one of the elected officials today on their inaugural small business entrepreneur training program, and the models that they're using and the approaches that they're using are really great.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Yeah, and I would want to invite you all to the January 24th ribbon cutting of this facility, the Omni Circle building over on Topeka Boulevard. We're really excited about this coming to our community, and I think that it will impact the entire small business community, not just, one sector of it. And so the door is open. You are welcome to come. You will be getting an invitation, and I will hope to see that you can take 30 minutes at least out of your busy day to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda.
Thank you.
Okay, I would like to reintroduce myself. My name is Trina Goss, Director of Business and Talent Initiatives. I've had the opportunity to meet several of you in person, but some of you I have not. So going into the talent budget, the first thing on the list is Top City Teachers, which is a program that was started in 2018. It's a program that allows new teachers in the community or teachers that have moved into our community to have an opportunity to get plugged in to Topeka and the things that we have to offer, to meet with some local leaders, and to have a little bit of professional development. The last time this program took place was in the early spring of 2020, and then COVID happened. So we are revitalizing that and bringing it back in January of next year. We'll have a 3-session program January through February, and then another program July through August for the 2022-2023 teachers that are coming in. Next on the list is community support. We're going to continue to support some of the programs that we've done in the past through Junior Achievement, the Kansas Discovery Center, their Kindergarten Readiness Program, and some other programs including like the Washburn Leadership Institute. We'll continue the Washburn scholarships through Washburn Tech East. Marketing support and ad placements, that is primarily related to Choose Topeka, but there could be some other things in the mix as we go through 2022. And a new thing that's on the list for talent is we're allocating funds towards Forge and the Topeka Youth Commission as they increase their efforts towards professional development and attraction and retainment for young professionals in our community. Any questions?
Thank you, Trina. Any questions for Trina? Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I'll quickly wrap us up here. On the last of those 5 columns, there is the general column, the administrative column. There's kind of 2 primary things in here. There is economic development related costs that benefit all of the prior columns, so therefore they're not directly related to a single one, so we drop them in the general. Those are things like we have a PR firm that our marketing department works very closely with, very responsible for a lot of the great recognition we've gotten with some of our programs over the last couple years. We'll continue that relationship, as well as memberships and database subscriptions for all of the data that we use to provide the economic impact analysis that we provide to you for just about everything that we do. We also have some Salesforce CRM implementation costs in 2022 to bring that online for our economic development division, as well as our shared costs and our shared services, all the costs that are split out, things like rent and utilities and the like. The last section on the other side of our ongoing program is our special initiatives. There's 3 main things in the first column of the special initiatives, the Innovation Campus, which we've already touched on. We also have some funds for the Choose Topeka incentives. This is not additional funds. This is just pay down of the funds that have already been previously encumbered. And then we had this last year, we'll continue this for 2022, is some funds for any workforce barriers that may arise in 2022. And that concludes the budget discussion. I myself, as well as the team, is here to answer any questions.
All right. We have gone through the whole budget. It seems that nobody has questions for Natalie, so the question is then, is there a motion for approval of the whole budget?
No, huh?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Mays. Do we have a second?
Second.
Councilman Lesser seconds. Additional comments or questions? Seeing none, we proceed by voting.
Mayor De La Isla,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Padilla,
Yes.
Council Members Ortiz,
Yes.
Lesser,
Yes.
Commissioners Rippon,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
and Mays.
Yes.
We have 7 voting yes.
7 voting yes, the budget passes. At this point in time, the next item is the public comment, and the person signed up for public comment this evening is Mr. Lazone Gray.
Not at all, never was. This is a copy that hopefully you can share with those members. Good evening, members of the Joint Economic Development Organization, JEDO. My name is Lazone Grays, citizen of Topeka. One of the reasons I'm here, I guess, is sort of try to set the record straight. There have been a couple of people over the last several weeks who have asked me why I come here and speak to specific issues, specifically even at the JEDO. And so I think that's when you don't have a history of how you get somewhere, maybe that's why questions come up. So I want to give a history. The first page is dated 2000. Is the document that I drafted when Joan Wagnon was mayor. This is when the discussion of the interlocal agreement and the sales tax for economic development was first coming up. And these were the things that I requested at that time, just to get it out there. The next letter, because she wasn't reelected and there was a new mayor, commissioners, I had to sort of start all over again and then go back because I was pretty adamant that I believe that because of how lack of support in diversity had been years prior to that this was a great opportunity to try to request some policy and some funding for businesses and individuals that had been left out. And so after this letter here, what eventually ended up in your sales tax or interlocal agreement is that's where the 10% that is set aside for these specific businesses came from. Now, I don't know what people were doing back in 2000, but I was at this podium and microphone, maybe not this podium and microphone, but I was here advocating for these things. So that's how we have these clauses in your interlocal agreement that dedicates that percentage of monies for the socially and economically disadvantaged businesses. And I had been at the table from the very beginning of the discussions when they were setting up the definitions for economic development. Just as much of the presentation here is about business and site selection and things, workforce training and expansion and development is a part of economic development. So it took a little conniving or what have you, or dialogue to make sure that that was a part of the definition of economic development. At that time, it would say that if it's not within the definition, then it's not economic development. And so it takes a little time to go to sit in meetings and negotiate back and forth to make sure that specific wording is in the policies, because mayors have changed, commissioners have changed, people with the contractors have changed, but some things stay the same. The truth always stays the same. The next page is really just sort of a copy, not of the first interlocal agreement, but the second one. And I just want to highlight where it had the definition of economic development that showed at the very end where the workforce training and expansion was added in. And then the following page basically stated what that designation for that 10% was going to be, and the population for social economic disadvantage. The final one is the interlocal agreement that you're under right now, which ends in 2031. And you will see how the definition of economic development has changed. And I can attest to this here due to the support and assistance from Scott Smathers, who was the interim president of Go Topeka at that time, and Jim Colson, who was the city manager at that time, who worked to make sure that the definition had changed, that added economic development for socioeconomically disadvantaged individuals, businesses, under the inclusion of urban economic development programs related to youth employment and the rehabilitation of black derelict buildings, which I'm glad to see that Go Topeka is now putting some focus on that. I want people to know that, and if I could have 2 more minutes, please.
Motion to extend for 2 more minutes.
We have a motion to extend. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Ortiz.
No,
At
Mays.
this point in time, we proceed by voting. Actually, all opposed? Seeing none opposed, Lazone, you have 2 more minutes.
Thank you. So I'm glad to see that that is now a part of that. And whether I'm gone, people change. JEDO will still be here. Something may come up for a youth employment proposal or something else. I learned from Commissioner Archer, he was pretty much to say that if it's not in the definition, then it's not economic development. So I was trying to make sure that the wording is actually in the definition, so that I think that between now and 2031, there are going to be some ideas. We see Go Topeka acting upon getting that redevelopment specialist that really fits off into here. And so I wouldn't, and that's also the 10% that is targeted, that clause there designating the monies. I just want to sort of clear the air, because I think that people think that some of these things, definitions, policies, and funding just falls out of the sky. It doesn't. People actually have to work for that, advocate for that, meet with people in that. And I'm very pleased that I have a good working relationship with Matt, Mrs. Washington, and the Go Topeka, team, and kudos to them. There wasn't much stated about the workforce, but because workforce training expansion is in there, I think that that led to why Washburn Tech East is created, because the wording within itself says that that's economic development. And as I shared at the meeting last night, that hopefully we can move forward, because there seem to be a lack of skilled labor for the workforce. So not just Washburn Tech East, but there's some other things that I hope to propose, and others that can help fulfill this definition and fulfill what is stated off in the interlocal agreement, especially since we have until 2031 and additional funds. ARPA funds and other things are going to dovetail right into everything else that you're doing with economic development. So I hope the city and the county can synthesize their work and activities and work together and maximize all of these resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Lazone. There is nobody else signed up for public comment this evening, so at this point in time, our reminder, which is our next agenda item, is for everybody on the council to put on your calendars February 9th, May 11th, September 11th, and December 14th of 2022. Those will be the next meeting. And if there is no other items in front of this governing body, it has been my distinct pleasure to be your chair this year. So to the new chair and the commission, enjoy the next year. That's going to have a lot of great things happening. And with that, we are adjourned.